Hi, we are talking to amazing people in construction and education about recruitment, training, and retention. Welcome to the Builders Table. I'm your host, Jennifer Wilkerson. So I'm excited today at the Builders Table here. I have my boss, and he's been a little discouraged because I have not had him on yet. And so
a little, a lot.
So I'm super excited. If you don't know my boss, Boyd Worsham, he's the CEO and president of NCCER. Been in the industry for a really long time, and we're going to find out about his story. So I'm glad that you're here, Boyd.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm honored to be here. The 101st episode of this podcast, and I finally made it. She told me a while back, you're not getting in the first 100. So I'm really honored to make it at 101.
All right. I don't know about all that, but so what I really want to start with is you were a carpentry student when you were in high school. What do you remember most about your carpentry class?
Well, let me rephrase that a tiny bit. As I am a carpenter because of being a carpentry student in high school and learning a lot in that class and that program that I used for many years afterwards and still continue to use. But I think what I remember the most was learning to lead people. You know, it was a kind of program where we actually built portable classrooms, and we built 4 of them every 9 weeks. So this was like a real job. And we had
child labor.
Yeah, it really was. So we had 3 hours in the morning were the juniors, and then after lunch, or the seniors rather, then after lunch, the juniors came for 3 periods, roughly 3 hours. And so we over that quarter, that period of that quarter, that 9 weeks, we built 4 of these portable classrooms that were 28 by 52 feet square. With a Dutch hip roof. And so we were a production shop, don't get me wrong. The instructor brought us in, we went through the books, we went through the lessons, but we learned it hands-on in the field. And I think during the course of those couple years in that program, those were not my first carpentry programs, but the most memorable, obviously, my last 2 years of high school. But somebody had to take charge and somebody had to help to guide the others through the work we were going to do. And I think we really realized that. And I realized the influence that someone like my carpentry instructor could have on a bunch of young people who wanted to learn.
So whenever you said you learned to lead people, was that something that was taught by the instructor, or was that something that happened naturally because you're out there with a bunch of guys working on these portables?
Well, I think the leadership is inherent in some. I can honestly say I think I was born with that, as I think some people are. But I can honestly say he cultivated it, though, as well, right? He saw that I would take others and try to show them something, or I would that he could tell me something, and I would go get the other folks in the class rallied around that goal. So I think he taught me, whether it was as intentional as I don't know how intentional it was or was not, right? But he did cultivate that in me, and I liked it. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't a power thing. It was about the ability to help others be successful. I thought was really fun and cool, and to accomplish our goals, because I realized if nobody's sharing the overall goal, then everybody's going to go at it their own way and in different ways. And it was a real opportunity for me to kind of pull it together, as it was for others in the class. I wasn't the only one. There were others. And so I think that was really the big lesson for me there.
Yeah. And I think that's really cool about career tech ed, because I think that happens, right? Because if you have hands-on and you're doing stuff with a team, like you said, whether it was your teacher's plan or not, it happened.
Yeah.
You all were learning that somebody has to take the lead.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was fun. And what was really interesting, so you'd build these portable classrooms, and this instructor was very intense and very smart man. But literally, you built the classroom, teacher's planning day, they still have those, I believe, today, they would move these portable classrooms out. So you'd come back the next day, and you'd tear down everything you had done, the little piers we built, the concrete piers we built, and all that. You'd tear it all out, lay it all out again. I mean, it wasn't just where we left all that up and built the next batch on top of it. We redid all that every time. It was like a fresh start every 9 weeks. And we put out 4 of them every 9 weeks. The county in which I still live, the county I went to high school, I still live there. The county still has schools that are completely built out of portables.
Yep.
With covered walkways at a main auditorium and lunchroom building.
That's so cool to think about. The portables that you would be in at your school were actually built by your fellow classmates.
Students.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Electrical wired them, HVAC put the through-wall air conditioning units, and plumbing put the plumbing in them, So it was a production shop, and we learned a lot, and it saved the county a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Really, really a cool program.
I'm surprised that doesn't happen more.
Well, codes have changed that a little bit on some of the fire. I still think it's very doable, and that we could at NCCER rally the troops around, rally some folks around putting together a design that could be used in most jurisdictions, if not all, with some slight modifications. Those kind of programs could exist today. I mean, think about it. It's a fraction of the cost. It is free labor, and it's teaching people what they need to know. So it was a super valuable program.
Yeah, no, that's something we need to think about that. So you talked a lot about your teacher. Do you remember anything particular that stands out in your mind about him?
I remember that he didn't take no very well. I remember a silly little thing.
That's where you get it.
That's where I got
That's
it.
where
from
you got
Mr.
it.
Hervey Robinson at Orange Park High School, 1979 and 80. I think the one thing I remember is nothing to do with carpentry. And I remember he was taking us all over to give blood. And I didn't want to give blood. Never done it. Didn't want to do it. I said, nah, Mr. Robinson, I don't think I want to do that. He goes, good, boy, come get in front of the line. We're going to give blood. And after that, I marched over there and gave blood. We did it about every 9 weeks after that, but it was this thing of like, even something as simple as that is, why wouldn't you, boy? He asked a couple of questions. I had no real reason other than I didn't want to. He said, get in front of the line, let's go. And then on, I've done it ever since my whole life. So it's just kind of that no, not taking no without a real reason to accept no.
Yeah, that's a pretty good philosophy. I mean, if you keep it in control, that's a good one. So also when you were in school, you were in Skills USA, but it wasn't Skills USA back then, right?
It was the precursor to the name Skills USA. It was VICA, Vocational Industrial Clubs of America, and I competed at the regional level and won at that level. Went to the state level where I didn't win, didn't do very well that day, but had a wonderful experience with it. And so when NCCER approached me prior to coming here 15 years ago and asked me to run the carpentry competition for Skills USA, of course, I was glad to do so. It was a throwback to when I was a young man. Now, to show you tell you how long ago it was, and to date myself a bit, it was all hand tools. We didn't use any power tools in competition at the regional level. I can't remember at state level. I think I've had such a bad day. I've erased that from my mind. But at the regional level, it was all hand tools. It was fairly small projects, but I distinctly remember, there were two competitors from each of the schools that had carpentry programs in Northeast Florida. And I remember we did it at a school in Jacksonville. I'm from a little county, just suburb county south of Jacksonville, of course. But I remember looking around the competition area and being pretty sure I'd won, but not wanting to think that because it felt like it might jinx myself. But I remember picking my toolbox up, putting it on my shoulder, and walking away, and then knowing that I thought I had a pretty good chance. But state was a whole different story.
Well, but it's interesting. So you must, you say you wanted to get involved in everything, but you must feel really good when you go to these competitions and watch these kids. Like, do you see yourself in the young people that are competing today?
Well, what I think I do is I see myself more on that state competition. Because I went down there and I wasn't, it was in Orlando, and I was prepared, but I didn't have my head in the game. And I literally, don't get me wrong, I don't say this arrogantly, but I was a very qualified and good carpenter at a young age. It just came naturally to me. You always hope people find what they're good at, and that's what I was supposed to do and what I was good at. But I didn't have my head in the game, and I didn't compete well, right? And so when we do the last 15 years of working with you and the others here at NCCER on the efforts we do at Skills USA, that's why that competition day, I spend the whole day just going around and talking to every competitor who may not be doing that well, because somebody needs to encourage them. Nobody encouraged me that day. I was just stand alone. You're over here. Tip broke off my tape measure, first board I measured, and there was no other tape measure, right? You have a 6-foot zigzag stick rule. And so everything slowed way down, so I got beat, particularly on time. But I spend my time going around trying to make sure all those folks who are there have an experience of a lifetime, that even if they don't win, it's still an experience of a lifetime. And they realize how important it is to be in that spot, to have won at a state level, and to be there competing. And so I think that's really where it comes back to me. That's why I don't want to be distracted on competition day. I want to devote my time to those 72 students, or any one of those that needs, a little bit of attention and a little bit of perhaps help that day.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that's really important too, because you're right. Like, if you don't have your head in the game, then anything can happen.
No, I didn't go there to win that day, and I've always remembered that. And honestly, that's probably the only opportunity that ever came knocking that I didn't seize. And I said, when I got back on that bus, and it's funny, my carpentry instructor had the national winner 4 years prior, every year for 4 years prior. Thank goodness there were only 2 more weeks of school left when I returned because
he was the don't take no guy.
Yeah, don't take no. And boy, I was good enough to win, but I didn't go there to win. You know what I mean? I went there I went there to have fun rather than to win. And like I said, I've been very careful with that since. So, yeah, very good lesson.
Good lesson.
Hard learned, but good lesson.
So you did all of these incredible things. Sounds like you had a great high school experience, especially with the carpentry program. First job. So what do you do? So you get out of high school. What did you have planned?
Well, at the time I graduated high school, I was doing carpentry work, during the week and evenings or whatever, and then on weekends. So I knew I was going to go into the construction business. It was just natural. It's what I knew. It's what I wanted. Really, was framing houses at the time. Thought I would continue to do that. But in my senior year, I was won an award for most outstanding carpenter in my class. So it's a local award at our high school. And I encourage everybody to think about putting together these kind of programs. But the carpentry instructor, my carpentry instructor, Mr. Robinson, for years prior to that, had awarded the Gold Hammer Award to the most outstanding student in his program. At his discretion, whoever had the best grades and he thought had achieved the most there, he would give it to. Well, I wanted that Gold Hammer, so I decided I was going to win that when I went into that program. It had the great fortune of doing so in my senior year. The guest speaker at the award ceremony was a gentleman by the name of Preston Haskell, who was the founder of the Haskell Company. He came, and I'd met with many other folks who'd come to try to recruit me, many other construction companies in Jacksonville, because Mr. Robinson lined that up for us, right? He tried to help us all find jobs. And I'd been, met with many, many others. Had met with some military recruiters because of results on the ASVAB tests and everything. But Mr. Haskell was the guest speaker. At the end of that discussion, he, was kind enough to ask me if I wanted a job, needed a job. I said, well, yeah, graduating high school, kind of need a job, I mean, I had a job, but I really was thinking career by then. And he said, well, what kind of job do you want? And I said, I want your job. He said, well, come try. And I spent 38 years trying. So there's there's kind of the moral of that story is, I tried really, really hard for a really long time and did okay there. And I'm really proud of the career I had there. But yeah, that carpentry program led to 38 years to the day career with the Haskell Company in Jacksonville, Florida.
That's great. More schools need to do things like that where they bring the contractors, the local contractors in, but give awards like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that makes students have something to achieve, something to work for.
Yeah.
Having the golden hammer. Because you said, I'm going to win that.
Yeah, I wanted it. It was just like a letter jacket to an athlete or whatever. To my mind, this is what I did, and I wanted to prove that I was good at it, and I wanted to win. And he made sure there were plenty of people in that audience to give jobs to all of us there that day. And I just had the good fortune of landing with the best company that was there.
Did your friends that you were in school with that were in the program, they all got jobs too?
Yeah, this shows the power of an instructor. Of his 20 graduates that year, last time I looked, and this has been many years ago, but at least 17 of them were at least superintendents in the industry. So he not only did he help us learn to be good at it, he built he made us want to be good at it.
Right.
He made us realize the benefits of the industry. He was a carpentry instructor, but he knew we were going to be carpenters. What he wanted to teach us was the business of construction. How do you succeed in this? How do you look beyond the craft to all the wonderful things that this industry brings to you? The craft's wonderful. Don't get me wrong, nobody can ever take it away. But I think the bigger thing was how to succeed in the construction industry and how to think long-term about success in that industry.
That's cool. It's cool really to make young people think about that coming out of high school. So kudos to Mr. Robinson.
I walked out of high school knowing I'd be a superintendent on big work. I mean, not once did I ever doubt it. I left to say, okay, I'm going to go run big project for somebody. So who do I do that for?
Yeah.
And how do I get there as fast as I can, the right way, and make it sustainable?
Yeah, and it ended up being Haskell. So you stayed at Haskell Company for 38 years. What was your career path like?
Very predictable in early stages of it. Started out, went to work there as basically a carpenter helper. I was a little more skilled than that, but that was the role I got based on not going through an apprenticeship program at that point. Later on, went through apprenticeship training, became a journey level carpenter, then became a carpenter foreman, which was a normal track. For a salary job, that's when you transition from a hourly position to a salaried position at Haskell, was you became a craft foreman. Mine was carpentry craft. then assistant superintendent, well, field engineer in between. You had to learn to do building layout. So field engineer is in survey layout person, then assistant superintendent, and then superintendent. And it took 6 years, maybe 7 years to make that transition.
That's not a long time.
Well, I had a couple opportunities that came along, which typically equate to bad projects I happened to be on that I got to finish up. That gave me kind of a jump start on some of that. I was doing a hotel in Los Angeles when I was a young man, and only the second job I'd ever traveled to for Haskell. So that would have been 83, I guess, 83 and 84. It was going to be built for the 84 Olympics. Superintendent left the company, and they let me finish it up with a project manager. Project manager was there most of the time, not all the time, because he was Florida-based. But I was able to finish up an 11-story hotel in L.A. at the airport there at LAX, and that kind of got my career going pretty good. Don't get me wrong, that wasn't enough that they just said, okay, you're a superintendent, right? They put me back under some really wonderful superintendents, great leaders, great powerful guys who were building the big work for the company, and kind of ran me through an accelerated growth plan. So really, I mean, it went really fast, and I was running my own projects in pretty short order, but I can honestly say I just was ready to by the time I did. It wasn't like they threw me out too early. It wasn't like they made me wait too long. But I think they got it about right. I still struggle with my first couple of projects, like everybody does, because they're just as big and as complicated, and you're managing hundreds of people all of a sudden in some form or fashion, direct or indirect. And so yeah, it was a pretty good start. Then they pulled me into the office. I'd been with the company about I don't know, maybe 15 years by then, 12, 13 years. So they brought me in as the first person at Haskell with safety in the title. I was the director of safety and training. So I came in, did that, realized, quite frankly, and I can honestly say it's the only job I don't think I did a good job at, was being the safety person. I was too much of a superintendent, quite frankly. And, we were trying to transition. This is when owners had kind of put their foot down about safety. And we were transitioning into that. I had wonderful bosses at Haskell, always did my whole career there. But they gave me the chance, and I did it for a few years. But I realized after a couple of years that I needed to run the safety department, but I needed people who truly knew safety better than I did, were more your true safety professionals. That's where gained so much respect for safety professionals in our industry. Because I was too much of the business person. You know what I mean? I was too worried about production and things. And quite frankly, I had some safety people who worked for me who were better at it than I was. So I continued
at least you recognize that.
For the rest of my career at Haskell, I oversaw that piece of our business, but I wasn't in the day-to-day of it as much, because my job was to help the field team, superintendents and all, to understand the reasons for the rules and policies we had in our safety department, and to make sure that we were consistent in the application of those.
Yeah, that's really cool, though. So then you did safety, but you didn't stop there, right?
No. I wound up over the years taking over what we call construction core. I was vice president of construction core, which meant everything that supported project delivery, but that did not need to be in each one of the delivery groups. We were set up in a very unique way of project delivery groups, which I thought was a great way to do it. So safety, quality, business diversity, construction technology, all those things were housed in my piece of the business to support all the projects across different delivery groups. And delivery groups, and it had divisions within them based on industry sectors. So my job was making sure if somebody went out and sold the project in any of those pieces of the business, making sure we could deliver the construction that was owed on time and good quality without getting anybody hurt, and make money doing it if there was money to be made, right? I say that with a caveat, because there's not always money to be made, but let's hope there is most of the time as there is. But yeah, so that's so I had safety, quality, all those pieces, and then the Haskell had internal subcontracting units that were really, really interesting. We had a concrete division, we had a steel fabrication business, they still do, as well as equipment operations, equipment facility, equipment yard, whatever you want to call it, contractor supply division, and all those that rolled up under me. So my job was, and then I'll tell you the truth, the most enjoyable one of all of those, even though all of them were good, was our steel fabrication division. I loved running steel business. I'd always been a customer of it, right? Buying my steel internally through the company. Then all of a sudden they said, somebody's retiring, take this thing, not running as well as we want it to, figure it out. And figured it out, loved it, and loved it. Now it's a wonderful piece of Haskell's business and has been for 20-something years now. It's been there forever, and it was wonderful many times, but obviously somebody was leaving. It had hit a little bit of a low point, and I was able to, wonderful people there. They just needed somebody to help them figure out how to get out of a hole. And we did that, and turned out to be a great piece of business for the company and serves them today. In fact, as we speak today, they're expanding that business and building a whole new shop on the property with the other shops.
That's awesome. So I think this goes to say, and you say this all the time, and all of us do, that there's a lot of career pathways. There's a lot of options that people don't know about because they get stuck on, I'm going to be an electrician, I'm going to be on a pipe fitter, I'm going to be an HVAC technician. But what you're talking about is it can be, if that's what you want to do, you can stay doing your craft. But you talk about safety, quality, all these different directions that you could go.
Oh yeah, it's think of it as the business of construction. I say it all the time. Y'all hear me around here talking about it. But we think of construction, especially with young people, especially in the business we're in. So much of our business is craft training, even though it's beyond that. It's leadership training and many other things, supervisory training. But craft training is a large piece of what we do, and it's really how we were founded. So I think we overemphasize sometimes about the craft. The craft is an entry point into the industry. And the beauty of this entry point is it's a lifelong entry point. Nobody can ever take that away from you. So no matter what happens in the economy, no matter what happens to you personally, or no matter what your interests are, if you want to stay, doing craft work, it's noble, beautiful, wonderful work, right? But if you want to do other things, move into foreman, superintendent, project management, entrepreneurship, and owner, whatever you want to do, you can do that. You never forfeit your craft. When I first got here, it's kind of funny. Somebody here introduced me as, Boyd Worsham, new president at the time, before I was the anointed CEO as well, but new president, and he used to be a carpenter. No, I've always been a carpenter. I am a carpenter, and you can't take that away. I don't forfeit that when I become something else, right? Everything builds on other things. And what the message I'd love to get across to our instructors, love to get across to others in this industry, is when we talk to young people, let's talk about the long game. Why are we sitting there? We don't do that in any other industry. Do we sit around and say, become this, like you're going to be that forever?
For the rest of your life.
You can be that forever if you want to be that forever, and there's nothing in this world wrong with that. But we talk about it like that's everybody's plan. All of us want to know we can move up in an organization and move up in an industry. And I think our industry is the best, just about the best industry for that, and we don't talk about it well. So I'd love to get your listeners to really think about that and think about how they communicate progression in this industry and in these young people's careers.
No, absolutely. I think that's really important. And I do think that the construction industry is one of the best for it because you see people, one day they're on their tools and someday they're in their own company. I mean, Same thing happened with my husband, but it happens at big companies that, you move it up to vice president in a huge company.
Yeah. And that's funny. I had a conversation with a young man the other day who's in a automotive-related field, told me he wanted to open up a body shop. Young man's done fairly well for himself, and he's interested in venturing out. I thought, that's really great. The problem is you know nothing about body work. That's not what you've been doing. So it's, I could go buy that talent. Yeah, you can. But if you do, please learn what they do every day.
Right. Because
it's really hard, I think, to run a business that you don't know or understand the fundamental work that's being done.
Yeah.
So anyway, but in this, learning a trade, understanding how we build things, and then learning how you manage that build and you manage the business around it is the way to ensure, one of the ways to ensure, or best ways to ensure long-term success in a business.
Absolutely. No, I love that. So in the time, this is probably a hard question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there any particular project that sticks out? Because that's a long time to be somewhere. You saw so many projects. Is there anything that's really memorable? Like this project was probably the one I remember the most.
Well, there's a couple, and I'll try to be quick with these. But I think I had the luxury at Haskell of being I was over field operations, so I went to all projects. We didn't build any projects really that I didn't go to. I mean, it was rare that I didn't go to a project.
You were a busy man.
I loved it. It was great going to see the teams, going to visit the projects. you spent more time on projects that had issues, right? You're there to solve problems. But even the really good jobs, which there were many of, I would go I would get to go to those and see what, admire what we built and congratulate the team and do whatever they needed me to do. But so I had the luxury of seeing literally hundreds, if not thousands, of projects over my 38-year career at Haskell. I think the ones that stick out the most for me probably is the first traveling job I did for the Haskell Company as a carpenter. I went up to Kiowa Island, South Carolina, a nice resort island off the coast of Charleston, and we were building condominiums there. And these were pretty, 5 or 6 story condos, something like that, steel structure, wood framing, cedar shake, exterior. But we had concrete stair and elevator towers on these buildings. And I want to share this because it's a bit of a lesson too. But anyway, we were pouring these structures, these concrete structures. I was on that crew working under some carpenter foremen, 2 carpenter foremen, one on each building. And I was managing, I was kind of a lead person. So I was leading the crew. I was still an hourly employee before being a foreman. And the way we were doing it was slow and very conventional, And this is in the early days of concrete pumps to show how old I am, early days of concrete pumps being common, right? And so we were bringing a pump in from Atlanta to pump these towers when we'd get them ready. And the way we were doing is we were doing columns, then we'd come back and do the concrete beams on them, then we'd pour concrete slab. And I went to the foreman and I said, guys, if y'all will just let me do one of these where I can form it all up at once, so when the pump comes, we can pour it all. There's 4 towers on each building. I can get them all ready. We can come pour them all at once, super efficient and everything. No, boy, that's not how we do it. Not how we do it. I said, okay. So then you have that dilemma. What do I do next, right? Foreman's just shot me down, but I know I got a good viable idea that I can do something with. So I wait a week or two, we do another level or so of these things. I'm thinking, man, this is just going to take us forever. I couldn't see how it would even work with the schedule. I'm thinking, how in the world are we ever going to get this done? So finally, I went to the superintendent who I'd gotten acquainted with on my first job. He's the same guy I started off in the company with. So I went to him, really interesting gentleman named Jim McFarland. I went to Jim. I said, Jim, I got an idea. I've got a better way. Now, I knew doing this was pretty risky, right? These foremen were not going to like me doing this, but I just could not help myself, So I went to him. I said, hey, how about if I do this? He said, well, boy, it's hard to wreck things, hard to strip forms doing it like that. And I said, I can cut everything where it will be, able to be wrecked out when the time comes, stripped out when the time comes. He said, okay. I said, I'm going to give you and a couple guys and y'all go do one. Don't screw it up, right? You know how that goes. And 2 weeks later, the other foremen were assigned to other things, and I ran that crew, and we stacked these things up and finished them in record time. But it was the only reason I share that. It's not a thing about myself. It's really sometimes you have to think beyond the way everybody else has been doing it. These guys were super smart. They were better carpenters than I was, right? But they had done it this way forever, and they weren't looking at a different way to expedite the process and speed it up. And them being moved on to other things was just because there was a greater need somewhere else, right? And so we stayed friends the rest of my career, or their careers at Haskell. They wound up working for me later. But the point was that
was a sign. That was an early sign in your career.
But it took a little bit of courage to go do that, right? Now, the real thing, I spent a week or so thinking about how do I do it in a way that's not offensive to people, right? I don't want to make anybody look bad. I just wanted to get done a better way. And so that was kind of a cool one. I enjoyed that project, and I was young and dumb then, so it was a little different, little more nightlife then than there was in later career jobs. When you're young like that and starting to travel. But then I can also say the project I left to come here was a wonderful. When I came to NCCER, it was really hard to leave a project that I just had started in Miami, at the Port of Miami, a new cruise terminal for Norwegian cruise lines. And I didn't see that project through. In fact, I saw it just get started and the structure going up, but it took a year to get to that point due to, all the politics of the work when it gets to that size work. And it was a $240-something million project, so much larger scale than some others I'd done. But I can honestly say the excitement of building something that was architecturally cool was very appealing to me. And I had a good time down there. But probably the best project I ever did memory-wise, and keep in mind, for many years, I wasn't running individual projects, but back in about 2014 or so, I went to Kentucky to build a processing plant. And it was a pretty tough project, fairly fast. Everything Haskell did was fast. That's their claim to fame. But what was really cool about it was they gave me a bunch of wonderfully smart, brilliant young engineers and project managers. It was a big job, a couple $100 million, so we had it staffed well. It had to be built pretty fast. The owner shared a trailer with us, shared our office compound. We had a big old huge office compound, big mobile home park basically in Kentucky. But the owner sat in an office beside me, and that was a whole new concept, right? Because we shared everything. It was an open book job, cost plus work. And I can honestly say the relationship with the owner was wonderful. But the better thing was I made a personal decision. You always say goals, right? My goal there was different. It wasn't, I knew I could build the building. I knew I could build it safely. I knew we could make money because I was involved in the money side of it. And I knew that we could turn out quality. So I had to have kind of a new goal. Well, my new goal was to make sure all of those young people that started that project finished that project and stayed with the company. Because big projects eat people. Bad jobs eat people really fast. So this needed to be a good job. We need to have fun doing it. And I needed this young team of folks who ultimately, many of which will become executives at Haskell at some point. Some of them probably are now. It's been 10 years ago, right? But just to know that I could lead them in a way that they stayed engaged with the industry, stayed engaged with the company, and grew their appreciation of both rather than just get chewed up in the big project. And we did that. And I was really, that's probably one of the more things I'm more proud of, right? Because these people would take a hill for me and I would take one for them. And that's really good when you're early in your career and you're just starting to hit big projects, right? Because I've seen where they get ate up sometimes, so that was a really good job for me.
Yeah, that's fun. So was there anything particular that you think you did? So since you decided I want everyone to be here when we get done with this job and us stay together, is there anything particular that you found worked?
I think there were a few things. One that sticks out to me was, rather than, I knew that I told the owner I would be on site a lot. I didn't have to agree to any certain amount of time, but the owner wanted me up there and had to be to get the project out of the ground. We started it right before winter, had to get, work through the winter to get the building enclosed, fairly large structure. What I didn't do that I would have done previously was I didn't tell anybody when they had to work on a weekend. You normally I would say, okay, I'm going to be here every other weekend. All of y'all do your own thing. But every other weekend when I'm home, y'all be here. I decided I wasn't going to do that. I said, listen, I've got every other weekend. I'll take care of those. I'm going to be there. I'm just there to work, right? It's not like I'm going to, fine being there, right? I'm staying over. But, go home to my family than every other weekend. But all I said was, y'all figure it out. And not once did they let me down. Not once did that team not have at least 2 or 3 of them there on a Saturday or a Sunday if people were working to get it done. I didn't have to tell them what to do. I just told them what I needed. I started to realize with talented, smart people, that's all you have to do. Used to be, prior to that, I'd have got out of the calendar. We just sat down and I'd put names on every one of those Saturdays. But that's just a simple little thing. But I think I empowered them to do their jobs well. I made them realize the value they brought, and I think I got better at showing appreciation of that, which is, not something I've done my whole life, to be honest with you.
That's a great tip, though. That's a great tip. Having them figure it out when you put it, then what do we get? Well, we have to do something. They're just going to
I said, guys,
step up.
Friday afternoon, I'm going home. Y'all take care of this weekend. And somebody did, and they always did, and they called me if they had a problem or text me. But they did a great job. And at the end of the day, we all left there together. And one of the mechanical engineers, he had one young child, another one on the way, and the date we had agreed for him to leave had come up, and he came to me. We were having some problems with a subcontractor on that piece of work, and he came to me and said, Boyd, I don't think I want to go home. I think I'm going to send my wife and my children home. I don't remember if the second was born by then or not. But he said, but this is my problem too, and I'm staying to help you fix it.
Wow.
And he stayed for another 6 weeks or so till we got other subs in and cleaned up some work that we'd let go that shouldn't have happened. So felt pretty good about that.
Yeah, no, that is great. I mean, to have their family's going and they're still staying there making it right.
I didn't stay, right?
Yeah,
but I was
you
like,
just didn't want to say that.
He's done his part. I'm not going to say anything. I'll struggle through it.
But he stayed anyway.
He came to me and stayed. Yeah.
That's a great thing about people that want to do something good and want to work hard, and they feel like they're part of a team. So you have this great career. You build these incredible projects. Why leave?
Well, because NCCER offered an opportunity to do something bigger. Love my former company. You've heard me you knew me when I worked there, right? You and I have known each other as long as you've been here at NCCER. And great company. I got lucky, found the job I wanted at the company I wanted to be at. Nothing but pleasure and pride in that. But I wanted to do something bigger. And I realized that your legacy you leave is always based on people. It's not based on projects. It's not based on other things. It's got to be based on people. That's how you build a legacy, right? And I really wanted to come to NCCER so that I could have a bigger impact on our industry. Like I said, I could have stayed. I never thought I'd leave the Haskell company. I literally thought I will spend 44 years here and then I'll go home. That was my plan. But when this opportunity came along, I thought, I think I know enough about construction, I know enough about business, and I know enough about people that if I can merge those all together with the right team of people at NCCER, we can make a huge impact on this industry and the people that enter into it, far beyond the scale of our relatively small organization we have here. And so there was nowhere else to do that, right? This was the spot. So the stars all kind of aligned. And I thought, well, I need to go do this. And been trying since I got here to do it, and we'll try till the day I retire. But I really think that we as an organization at NCCER truly can improve millions of lives through construction education and connecting these individuals with industry. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah. And I think what's so cool about NCCER, I feel like everybody knows that works here, everybody that's in our network, everybody's moving. We're all pedaling in the same direction because everybody wants that to happen.
Yeah. And it's, at the end of the day, it's for people and for each other, right? And we are in service to industry. That's what NCCER is about, and we have always been in service to industry. I don't apologize for needing the means to be able to meet our mission, but we are in service to industry, and we will continue to try to expeditiously train and educate people in this industry, help them to have better jobs, help the contractors who we are here to serve to have better people, and figure out how do we make all that fit together, and what can this mid-sized organization in Alachua, Florida do to make a huge difference in people's lives and in the construction industry. And we do every day, and we should continue to grow that. So there wasn't much hesitation when I was asked if I was interested in this job. Had I not gotten it, I would have stayed where I was forever, but I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's awesome. Well, we're glad you're here.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So anything surprise you when you came over to NCCER?
I think the only thing, I came from a very sophisticated organization because, Haskell's true integrated design build. So you had the whole design side, which I think brought some sophistication that you wouldn't have just as a general contractor, right? So I came from a very sophisticated organization that was very, if it couldn't do something, it didn't know it, right? We just didn't know we couldn't do it, right? We just said, okay, let's go do it. How do we put the resources on it? For instance, the workforce shortage. It's a supply problem. It's a supply chain problem. Our industry solves those all day long. Can't get this. We figure out where do we get it? Where do we find it? Where do we buy it? How do we get it here fast, right? Oh, what do you mean I can't have it till Friday? I've got to have it tomorrow. Yeah, I didn't plan it, but I got to have it tomorrow. So, we go get it. We figure it out. Well, our industry has not been as resourceful at figuring out how to solve this workforce shortage problem that it has, nor have we been. So we keep thinking of it as just adding more people. We aren't thinking about it. How do we make the people we have better? How do we educate them in a way that we can deliver that education to them, that training to them in a very expeditious way that meets them where they're at? Now, we didn't have the tools for that. You know that as well as I do. We didn't have tools that allow that flexibility. But with all the hard work of UI and 135 other colleagues here, we've built those tools, and we're soon to deploy those tools. And hopefully we can accelerate the benefit that our industry has for all these people by helping them to get better faster and get the construction industry to adopt these tools and these opportunities that are out there to really bring people in faster, educate them faster, and make those that are already here better.
Better, faster.
Yeah.
So if there was one thing that you could accomplish here, so I mean, that's a lot already what you're talking about and improving people's lives through construction and the opportunities. Is there anything that you have thought of that you could say, that's what I wanted to accomplish?
Well, there is one big thing that I would love to do better than I'm doing today, and better than perhaps we're doing today as an organization. I think there is still a huge lack of awareness around how wonderful these careers are. I think people think, as we started off this conversation, people think that, well, I don't want to go be a carpenter forever. I don't want to be a plumber forever. And that's all you're offering me. Well, that's not what we're offering people. But what people don't understand, if you don't know this industry, if you have no experience with it, you just simply don't know it, right? So we need to find a way to create greater awareness of how you get into this industry and where this industry can take you. And the one thing I'd love to, at the end of the day, to say we solved is how do we create awareness, knowledge of our industry around the career opportunities, and make sure that and ensure that everybody understands that so they can make a choice that is best for them. If they have the right interest, aptitude, skills for this industry, we need them in this industry. If you want to go to college, get a 4-year degree, get an 8-year degree, get a license as an architect, engineer, I don't care how you do it. If you want to get the NCCER certification as a superintendent, a foreman, craft certificate, doesn't matter. How do you progress through this industry is what we want people to understand, and we want them to understand these wonderful jobs. Jennifer, I joke about this, but just Friday, I got my Social Security statement. I'm over 60 now, so they send me a Social Security statement every year. You young guys don't understand this yet, but I took the time to add up how much money I've made in my lifetime. It shows it. Groups it in 10-year buckets to start with. Then it starts breaking it down. Now, I can only say I don't have all that money, but I've made a lot of money doing this, and I've had a wonderful time. I've loved going to work every day, and I love going to work. I mean, I've never not enjoyed my job, and I want the rest of the world to experience it, those that it's right for, right? We don't want people coming to our industry that it's not right for.
It's not right for.
I don't care if you want to get a 4-year degree. I don't care if you want to, start in the industry and learn as you go and take some apprenticeship classes, take courses, take some of our other future programs we're going to roll out, whatever that may be. But the one thing I'd love for us to be better at, and for me to be a key to making that happen, is creating greater awareness of the benefits of these careers, because I think we can solve our workforce development problem pretty easily if people just understand us, and they just don't know. And we're sitting around wondering why they don't choose us. Well, nobody chooses something they don't know, right? So I can honestly say that's the big goal. I think we've built the things it takes to improve the skill set of people. Now we just have to figure out how do we increase knowledge and awareness of people.
Man, that's a hard one.
It's a really hard one.
That's a hard one.
But, if it was easy, they wouldn't need us so much. So, But think about this. The construction industry is the largest industry in the world. If we can't figure this out, then shame on us. We're going to keep getting beat by other industries, right? And as we know, if we have to increase productivity, we have to do other things that make us a more competitive industry, because our productivity has been down in the U.S. in the last few years in construction. Costs have skyrocketed, not all under our control, but some. And if we're not careful, those things are going to come home to roost, and they're going to be negatives for our industry, worse than they are now. So to be more productive with what we have, and to do the things that I think offset that, drive costs down where we can, to be more competitive, to make sure projects don't get canceled, then we have a key role in that at NCCER. And I think we're doing that well. We just need to get the word out better sometimes.
Yeah, we're working on it.
We are.
And if there's anybody listening that has the golden ticket, they need to call us.
Yeah, we'll take any ideas, any nuggets we can get.
Absolutely. So you've had an incredible career. You've been all over the industry. You're here with us now. What's the most important or critical thing that our industry needs to do in the next 5 years to be able to secure the future of our industry?
Well, I think I have an answer for that.
Okay.
The construction industry needs to become the industry and career of choice for all. I say that very carefully because all is the big word here, right? We have, we've got to quit pushing the rope uphill. We've got to get people in this industry. We've got to train them. We've got to invest in them, and we've got to help them understand it, how to get there. And it needs to be for all. You did some wonderful research on on women in construction. It's been very well recognized in the country and in the industry. But we need to make sure that we can act on all those things, that we realize that we need to build an industry and adjust an industry to be something that is open for all, accepting of all, and serves everybody well. And it can do that. We can do that. We just have to, as an industry, we have to let go of some of our norms or some of our, that's just how we've always done it. The story from my job in South Carolina at that time. We have to let go of some of that and say, how do we make this an industry that all will have a chance to choose if it's right for them? And that's where I think we have to do to really create a sustainable path forward and solve these problems we have. Now, I know that sounds like similar to what I said a minute ago around this, but the difference is the word all, right? We've got to have better diversity in our industry. We've got to be open to, more gender diversity. We've got to be open to a lot of things and find ways to make those work. I had somebody tell me the other day, a very experienced, seasoned professional in the industry, tell me, and it's a female, said, well, it just doesn't work because they can't be at work by 7:00. Okay. What if they could get here by 8:00 and work an hour later? Or what if they could do more in 6.5 hours or 7 hours than we're currently doing at 8? How do you make it work for the single mom who wants a better job, who needs a better job? I think we owe that morally to people as well, right? To society. And I think that we have to find ways to think beyond how we're doing it to how can we do it, how could we do it, and what are the benefits of that to ourselves and the people who work for us, and equally to the owner community of which we owe something to, right? It's not just about us as contractors. It's about the owner community getting value for their money so they come back next time and allow us to build their next building, perhaps with better terms and higher profits.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you're saying that, because I was thinking, our industry is starting and has been innovative, design build, if you go back to that, and we keep doing new things, and we're looking at modular building, and we're looking at, drones and all the things. We get innovative in some areas, but we haven't been innovative at all in how we can change to become an industry of choice. Like you said, I was just thinking, what have we done on our project sites lately to accommodate and make it a better working place for the people that are there?
Yeah. Well, I think the answer is going to come from industry leadership. Because when you get to a project level, literally, it needs to be implemented. It has to be implemented at project level. Nothing works in our industry, creates change unless it's at the project level, whether it's design project or in a field project. But what we have to do is, people who are running these projects, it's a really serious job. They're working really hard out there, just keeping up with the day to day. It's really hard to look very creatively sometimes at things. Don't get me wrong, we do when we can't get material we need, we can't get something, but we're not always thinking about how could I do this differently, right? But I do think as leaders, which I consider superintendents, project managers, foremen, all those as leaders, not just executive leadership of an organization, but all the leaders of this organization need to look for opportunities, find those opportunities, and find solutions. That's what we do. Construction people are the greatest problem solvers in the world. You better be, or you're not going to get it done. So I think thinking of it in a problem-solving mindset to say, how do we bring new talent into our business? How do we help them to succeed faster? And there's certain things that inherent in certain genders, certain people, that make them better at certain kinds of work.
Absolutely.
Your study talked about the detailed nature or detailed personality of females in the industry, and everything when they take on a project. And I thought this years ago, I had a project that that we were struggling with getting all the process equipment wired up, getting all the control wiring done and everything. And some of that work was sloppy. It had to be redone. And I thought, man, if I just had a bunch of detail-oriented females, which before your research, but I was smart enough to say, if I had, instead of, bunch of knuckleheads here, I'd have, I wouldn't be doing this twice, and maybe the knuckleheads need to pull the wire, but let these detail-oriented females terminate and label it all, that kind of thing. But I think there's so much opportunity to think differently. It's that same, the old adage, if you just keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. And we just
Boy, have we done that.
Yeah, we do that. I'm like, so let's think about it differently. Let's think about how to adjust things so that everybody can be successful. You taught me this, but we don't know. No good person wants a kid sitting on a curb in the afternoon, right, or in the morning, right? So why can't we have people, shift our hours a little bit to accommodate the working single mother who needs to get her kids somewhere, same place we would want our kids to be, right? Same place we'd want our wives or daughters to make sure their kids are. Why can't we think like that and say, okay, you can't do 8 hours and do what you need to do, but you can do 6.5. And I got news for you. Enough 6.5 equal an 8. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And, as far as, overall hours worked. So it's that kind of thinking that we really need to consider in this industry for your recommendations from your research to really take hold. And those can be industry-changing recommendations if we can get industry to think beyond how we do it today and think about how could we do it and what would the benefits of that change be.
Yeah. Can you imagine? That would be awesome.
It'd be cool. I mean,
that's definitely something that we need to work for. I just wish. So everyone call, everyone tell us what your ideas are.
Yes,
you
please.
heard it. We're open. We'll figure it out. Okay. So you were finally on the podcast. Was it what you expected?
I'm shocked that it took me 100 episodes to get here, but I'm proud to be here, and it was fun and it was wonderful. And I hope that your guests enjoy it. I enjoyed talking to everybody, and I always enjoy talking to you. You and I spend a lot of time together, which is a wonderful part of this job. But I do appreciate the opportunity to be here, and it's been fun. And if I can ever be of any service to you or value to this again, please let me know.
Yeah,
I'm glad to do it. I sit right over there. All you have to do is ask.
You're not far, right?
Not far.
Yeah.
All you have to do is ask.
I can throw a rock.
Yeah.
But don't throw a rock.
Glad we have too many glass interior walls here for rocks.
Yeah. No, you have such a great story. So I love having this be the first episode of season 3 because we want this to be about stories. And I think you are, and you say this all the time, you're the poster child of career tech education and what you can be. And we just need more poster children out there and doing this over and over. So,
well, let me ask one thing before you
Sure.
dump me here. That's wonderful what you said. I would like to ask the people who are listening to this or seeing this podcast, share those stories with us. We want those stories. And they're harder to capture than you realize when you're down here in Alachua, Florida, doing all the material, all the tools you need to run those programs. We're not delivering any training ourselves. So please share those stories with us. Help us find those poster children, because that way we can share that. We have the ability, especially Jennifer, to share that at a very national level, maybe even broader than that, and do it at scale. But we need your help gathering those stories. So please tell us about the successes you're having in your classrooms, in your companies, in your programs, so that we can share those with the rest of the world, please.
Yeah, that's what we have to do. We have to tell our story. Thanks for being with us today. And so we'll see you at the next episode of The Builder's Table.